What's up guys, I'm Mike Sasser and today I'm really excited to share with you my thoughts on the Canon EOS R. Now Canon sent me this camera for free, and when you are a really famous YouTuber like me, you get free stuff all... Oh hey Eric, I was just about to call you.
Dude, I've been calling all day. I need my EOS R back.
Oh yeah man, let me just 1 second. This is Eric from Banana Man Films. He has been shooting a lot of the behind the scenes videos of this channel, so huge thank you to him. This is actually his EOS R, so thanks for letting me borrow it and welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah man.
Anytime you can use it.
Anytime?
Maybe not anytime, just check first.
So if you follow this channel, you know that most of my advice and tutorials are based around like the business of boudoir, but today I'm excited to be doing my very first ever boudoir gear tutorial.
Didn't you do one on boudoir lenses though?
Okay, well, I'm excited to bring you guys then the first ever YouTube video on the Canon EOS R.
Nope, there's like a billion of those.
A billion?
A billion.
Okay, so I know outside of making me a famous YouTuber, you shoot a lot of interviews. So talk to me about why you sold your Sony to get this Canon EOS R.
I'd say the biggest reason was matching colors. You know, interviews where you have skin tones that have to match. It's not totally different shots. They're super similar. They've got to look the same. And I could get it pretty close, but it was just a lot more time spent tweaking back and forth. Whereas this, there's C-Log on this camera, there's C-Log on the C100. They aren't perfect, but they're pretty close. I can do that, and then there's just more time for tacos.
Nice. What's number two?
I originally picked up the A6500 for a trip to India, and it was gonna be our like small gimbal, like run and gun in the crowds and tuk-tuks and stuff. But with that autofocus on there, as soon as you plug in a monitor to see what's actually going on, because the screen's so poor, there goes your face detect. And I love that, it's amazing. So this solved the problem with that because the screen is really good. You don't need another monitor.
And also tacos.
And also tacos.
Eric, thank you so much for coming over and sharing your thoughts on that. Could I borrow it for just like 20 more minutes?
Dude, really?
Yeah, I gotta finish the rest of this video for these guys. They need to see the rest of the stuff. Yeah, I'll buy you tacos. Bring me back the change. All right, so I got to use this camera over the weekend, and I don't want to do the same video that everybody does. I heard everybody's like, oh, I'm not going to talk about the specs. I'm going to talk about what it was like to use the camera, and then all they do is talk about the specs. So I'm not going to talk about things like the 4K and the flip out screen and the frames per second. So the first thing I want to talk about is how programmable this camera is. I'm coming from Sony, which has like a million different ways you can program their cameras, but this one is equally as much, if not more. One of the things that I used to program was this AF on button, and I switched it between doing a wide focus area and a single point focus area. So this was amazing for when I was shooting people. I would have the wide focus area and it would lock onto faces. When I was shooting a detail shot, I would switch to the single point, and then I could really line up just specifically that part of the image that I wanted. The next item that I did in terms of that is the left button I programmed to switch between servo autofocus, so continuous autofocus, and single shot autofocus, which means you push and hold and it locks focus. So those two pretty much go hand in hand, and it just made my ability to switch in the moment so much easier. I'll also say that using the touchscreen for when it was needed was really amazing. They have that just dialed in. Sony's way behind. Now before I get to the bad stuff and everybody says, but Michael, you're sponsored by Sony. I have purchased every piece of Sony gear that I own. Before this, I shot Canon for about 6 years professionally. It's what most of my photography business was built on, and I've been waiting for them to come out with an amazing mirrorless camera to match with the Sonys so that I could switch back. So a couple of the things that I really dislike about the camera, but I'm not gonna spend too much time on, are the 4K crop. The 120 frames a second is only in 720 and it's only manual focus, so you know, more or less unusable. There's no in-body image stabilization. This on-off button couldn't be in a more ridiculous place. It's just, it just doesn't make sense. What person on Canon's team said that, let's make the whole left side of the camera this on-off button? It just doesn't make sense. Okay, but all of those things I could live with or without. But this one thing in particular is a total deal breaker for me. So when I bought the Sony A9, and I know it's a more expensive camera, so you know, you could say that it's at an unfair advantage, but Sony came out with no blackout shooting, which totally changed my life. Basically, all that happens when you take a picture is a white box flashes around the screen. And then you know you've taken the picture. There's no blackout, there's no pause in shooting. You're looking at the very next thing as soon as that box flashes. It's basically like you're just watching a video. Now this was a little weird to get used to at first, but it has totally become the only way that I like to take pictures. Canon has come out with no blackout shooting on this, except it works a little bit differently. No blackout from Canon really means that they play back a brief image of the photo you just took until you take the next one. So basically you're looking at the past while you're taking these pictures. I found this incredibly difficult to be able to tell where my subject was going to be going next because I didn't have any cues as to what they were going to be doing. I could only see what they had already done. They're using the photo you just took to cover up the shutter so that they can say it's no blackout shooting. I would much rather take the shooting experience of the 5D over this. Because in photography, to me, the whole point is to be looking at what you're about to take, not to be looking at what you've taken. You know, do that when you're done shooting, do that when you have a moment for a break. Essentially, I've just never felt more disconnected from the person whose picture I was taking. And don't even get me started on this touch bar.
Dude, wrap it up.
All right, I gotta give this camera back.